And so they spent almost the whole thing working on this stupid puzzle. And then we didn't even throw it in the fire at the end, even though that's what we said we were going to do.
Welcome back to the Middle of Culture. I am one of your co-hosts, Peter.
And I'm your other host, Eden.
Eden, how are you out there in Corn Sweat Central?
Sweating up a corn.
That sounds terrible.
What else can I say? It's so hot. We were out of town for almost a week and a half, and it was very pleasant. It was very clement where we were staying. And then to come home to this was a lot.
About. What is the forecast like? I know you said it's supposed to be worse tomorrow.
Warming up tomorrow. Moderate air quality. UV out the wazoo. And very high tomorrow. Getting up in the 90s again with 90% humidity.
Oh, that's terrible. It's routinely been in the 90s, mid to high 90s here, but again, it's not unbearable because it's so dry.
It's different when the humidity is so high.
Yes, it is.
Anyway, how you been?
Hanging in there.
What's fresh with you?
I will not go into details on the pod, but we talked briefly beforehand. Some things at work that have just been, I'll say, challenging. And so trying to navigate those, it's something that I've never really had to deal with before. And trying to figure out kind of what do you do, So...
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, we're just moving through the summer. Kind of hard to believe that Alex will be home from his mission in like 3 weeks from today.
Oh, wow. That's very soon.
Yep. 3 weeks from today, he will come home. So yeah, we've got his itinerary in terms of his travel plans. We've received all that stuff. And it was a little weird to be on that side of it and get the emails now that say, here are the plans for your son to come home. And that means that 4 weeks from this Saturday, we will have a wedding.
Yeah, that's exciting.
It is exciting, but it's also, I don't know. I think about it and I go, oh boy, I don't know if I'm ready for all of this.
You got a lot coming up.
But what have you been checking out lately? Anything of note?
It's we were out of town, so there wasn't a whole lot going on. I will say there are a few things that are fun, that are worth mentioning, that are fun conversation pieces to talk about on the pod. First off, I do not know the name of the company, but there's a particular puzzle company that is on my permanent shit list from now till forever. And that puzzle company is a puzzle company that so we were out visiting a family, and Cassie likes to do puzzles.
Sure.
And so we'd done a couple puzzles, and then she pulled out this puzzle on like Monday and was like, okay, the conceit with this puzzle is what's on the box is not what's on the puzzle. What's on the box is the same thing a few hours in advance of what's on the puzzle.
Okay.
So it was a daytime scene on the box and on like the sheets that you have that come in the puzzle. And then the puzzle was what had happened in this fantasy situation by nightfall.
Okay.
And so that means that maybe there was a statue, and that statue has now shattered and something is coming out of it. Maybe what used to be a waterfall overlooking some buildings is now filled up, and now all those buildings are underwater and there's no waterfall anymore. Now there's a lake. Or all these sorts of things. And again, it's a different time period. So that means that the coloration is all different and everything.
Sure.
It was an extremely frustrating puzzle. And Cassie and her brother then spent the next 5 days working on that puzzle. And I was like, I would love for us to do anything besides work on this puzzle. But they were captivated and infuriated by it in turn. And so they spent almost the whole thing working on this stupid puzzle. And then we didn't even throw it in the fire at the end, even though that's what we said we were going to do. We were like, we're going to finish this puzzle and then we're going to throw it in the fire and burn it. No, they boxed it back up so someone else can suffer in the future. And that's cruel.
So
that's cruel.
Are you a puzzle fan?
I don't care for them.
Okay.
I sit there with Cassie sometimes when she works on them. I don't like doing puzzles.
Okay.
I don't think it's very fun, but she likes it. So sometimes you do things because your partner likes them.
Sure. No, I am very much with you. I do not enjoy doing puzzles. Alyssa likes them and will occasionally, set up a table in the living room and do a puzzle for until she's done. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
I don't find any draw in.
No, me neither. But it is what it is. But we finally finished that, which was good to be
Good,
done with that.
I'm sure.
Other things to mention. So one thing that is interesting is on our last couple of trips, we have tried a new way. I mean, I talked about carmping.
Yep.
And while we were carmping on our way back from that trip when we slept in the car, I was looking for, on the way out, I just like Googled campsites and found like a KOA knockoff that was big, had 80, 90 spaces,
Sure.
had like a little mini golf, like a KOA. As we were coming back, we wanted to find something different, and Cassie had seen something about like a bison sanctuary, and she was like, wouldn't it be cool if we could like pet bison or something like that? And I was like, that would be cool. And so I did some digging and found this farm. I found an app, an app and a website called HipCamp. Have you ever heard of HipCamp, Peter?
I have not.
HipCamp is basically what if Airbnb for camping.
Okay.
So it is a lot of people who own some land, have spots where people could go and camp, and that's kind of the vibe of the thing. And so I found this place. It was a bison farm that had 2 plots on it. And I was like, great, we're going to go. Maybe we'll be able to see some bison. Maybe we'll be able to touch a bison.
Yeah.
We did not get to touch a bison. What bison they had on their farm were very, very, very far away from the camping spots, but it was fine. And like, it was a fun off the beaten path experience because this was just these people with a farm and doing this on the side.
Sure.
And so then on this trip, we decided to look on HipCamp again. One of the things that HipCamp offers as you search on it is you can do glamping searches. So
there you go.
You can find some much fancier accommodations that might, fulfill what you want in a nicer accommodation without necessarily being a Best Western off the side of the highway. So on the way out, we stayed at a place in Indiana, right on the Indiana-Ohio border, where they had an old school bus that they had converted into a sleeping area. And it was like, it didn't work anymore. It was just kind of out in the property. And like, we pulled up to the property and it was just like somebody's house. And then the instructions in the app were like, you have to walk down this path. And like, so we walked down this path and we walked through this long path that like kind of wove through their property. And then the path was all mowed down, but there was like big plants on either side of it. So it kind of felt very, foresty almost, while still having this path you could walk. We walked along. There was like a little bridge over a little creek. And then there was their chicken coop. And then we rounded a corner and there was this cute little bus that had been turned into a sleeping area. And so that was actually really fun. Cool. Cassie had a very good time. She was really excited. I kept it a secret from her until we got there. Nice. And so she was very excited about it because she loves a bus. And that was really, really fun. But then on the way back, we were looking for other kind of fun accommodations. And I found this Mustang ranch that had this little cabin that they rented out. And it was super, super cheap. It was like $50 a night, nice. Which is like pretty good. It's a pretty good deal. It did not have running water, but it did have electricity. So, you could make... They had like a coffee maker in there. There was a fridge if you had needed it. There was AC in this little cabin. So that was all nice. It was really handy. But I reserved the spot. I talked with the woman who was one of the owners. She was like, we're excited to have you. It was great. As we started driving, she was like, hey, like with when you check into hotels, you can pay a little extra for like early check-in or late checkout, right?
Sure.
That had been one of the things that you could have added on to this property, but I didn't bother doing it because I knew we were going to get there kind of late and leave probably pretty early because we had a long drive ahead of us. So she messages me through the app and she's like, hey, we don't have anyone staying with us, tonight, the night before. So if you want to come early, it's on us. Don't feel bad about coming early. You can come whenever you want. And I was like, oh, we have a long drive ahead of us. And she was like, okay, well, you could also leave late the next day. We also don't have anyone coming the next day. So we didn't end up doing that because we had a long drive.
Sure.
But just like very like open and gregarious. And so we were like, okay. And as we were driving, we were like, maybe we should ask them if there's any good like restaurants near them so we could have dinner somewhere. Like maybe they have recommendations. So again, I reached out and I was like, hey, are there any places you would recommend? She was like, we are kind of out in the middle of nowhere. Like there's some restaurants about like 20, 30 miles away, but do you just want to have dinner with us? And Cassie and I were like, yeah, actually, we would love to just have dinner with you.
Yeah.
So we got there, we got uncamped and everything, or unpacked and everything. They had a bunch of mustangs and some like horse treats. So we went and like fed the horses for a bit. Once the husband got back with the big hay bales for the horses, he fed the horses, and then we came and like cooked hot dogs over the fire while the husband told us the travails of having COVID, needing to be put into a medically induced coma for 8 days, where during that medically induced coma, he lived 5 simultaneous separate lives that were going on. And one of them included him fist fighting Satan himself in the streets of Pittsburgh. And it was wild. It was wild.
That's
the
awesome.
guy had wild stories to tell us.
I love it.
And then like right after that, he got a cancer diagnosis. So then he had to go under the knife to get the cancer removed. And then after that, he had to have elbow surgery. And they were like, this is going to take you months to heal. And he's like, I can't wait that long. I'm a paramedic. I need to be back to work. So I was back to work within 4 days. And I was like, I don't believe that. Because if your boss is also a medical professional, that boss is going to be like, dog, you had elbow surgery 4 days ago. You're not allowed to come back that fast. But I don't know. Who's to know what this guy was telling us was true or what was exaggerated stories. But it was a beautiful place and it was super cheap and they fed us dinner and they were just so kind and like friendly. And it was obvious. It was also one of those things where it was like, I can tell that we have very different views about certain things.
Sure.
And so we're going to keep this conversation very light. We're going to keep this conversation very civil.
Oh, yeah.
So that we can all leave thinking, I like this person. Because I think there are certain topics we could have broached where both of those, all of us would have walked away going, I think I hate these people.
Yep.
So anyway, it was an adventure. So if you want to go glamping, listeners, look up HipCamp and see what you can find. There was this very cool treehouse that I wanted us to go stay in, but it was like kind of high up in Michigan. And so if you didn't want to like swing down below and back up, you could theoretically have cut across Canada. But A, we forgot our passports, even though we thought about maybe doing this.
Sure.
And B, even if we had our passports, do I really want to cross an international border to cut 3 hours off of a drive in 2025? Would I have done this in 2023? Absolutely.
Sure,
I would have. It would have been easy. But 2025, I don't think I want to try to cross the border.
No,
so
you don't want to go
we didn't
where
end up staying
everybody
in that.
hates us and has good reason to. And then come back into...
That's not the part I'm worried about.
And then come
I'm
back
worried
in.
about...
That's the problem, is then you leave, then they're not going to be that welcoming, but then you come back and who knows what's going to happen to you. Because
that was what I was more worried about.
Because here's the thing we know.
Canada would be like, yeah, okay.
Right.
Come on in.
And the U.S. would be like, we don't care. We think.
Why do you have this communist app on your phone?
Right.
You said Donald Trump was bad on bluesky.com.
Yep. Good times.
So we didn't do that. We didn't do that.
That's smart. That's smart.
And the last thing I will mention, Peter, have you heard tales of the horse girls?
No.
Uma Musume has not come across your radar at all?
No.
It is the phone game.
I've seen, I think I saw it in the App Store the other day, but I did
You
not pay
probably
any
would have.
attention to it.
It's very successful. It's very, very popular. It is an app. It's a phone game that came out in Japan like 2 or 3 years ago at this point. They've only released the global version in the last month or so. And it's a stupid premise. It's the dumbest premise you could possibly imagine. The premise is, in this world, sometimes girls are born with horse head or with horse ears and tails, and
Okay.
the will and desire to run extremely, extremely fast. And so instead of horse racing in this world, it is races between girls who are horses.
Okay.
And it's really stupid. The other fun conceit is that every single one of these characters is named after an actual dactual racehorse that raced in Japan. So, Silent Suzuka and Special Week and Gold Ship and Haru Urara are all actual horses who actually ran, all of which were like prize winning horses, except for Haru Urara. That's a long story, but she never won a single race. She ran 116 races, never won a single race. And so all of these sorts of like traits of these horses are built into the characters that they created based on these horses. So like Gold Ship the horse is a real asshole. Nobody likes him. He's mean. He's rude. He like fights with his fights with his handlers all the time. Like famously just like a piece of shit horse, but also ran really fast. So the character is an asshole. She's a jerk. She's like, what if Deadpool was a horse girl? That's how I would describe Gold Ship.
Okay.
And like, it's stupid. It's really stupid, but it's also kind of fun. It's also a kind of fun game. And basically what it comes down to is it's like a sports management game because you have to train them and give them certain skills and then send them out to race and make sure that they perform adequately in those races. But that means you have to balance like their energy and make sure that you can do certain types of activities that might, sometimes you'll need to recover energy. You want to make sure their mood is good because then they'll get more stats when they train. You want to send them out to do some optional races so you can get more skill points, so you can unlock more skills. And so from a strategic level, it is a really satisfying game to try to figure out, where do I need to put my effort? What sort of skill cards do I need to do? Because that's going to affect what sorts of bonuses you get to the different types of trainings and what sort of skills you'll be able to unlock because you'll get hints from the different, horses that appear in your different support cards. It's surprisingly good for having the stupidest premise.
Okay.
But it's pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie. Uma Musume, it's pretty fun. Anyway, what you been up to?
Well, a few different things worth bringing up. I will just continue to say we are still watching Taskmaster. I think we're up to series 6. We finished the Champion of Champions and then are working our way through series 6. I continue to love that show, especially this last week, because as I think I may have mentioned before, it is a zero stakes show. Even the people who are playing the game don't really care. They'll sometimes, for fun, act outraged, but it's not real. And so it's easy just to sit back, watch it, and again, not have any worry about any stakes of any sort at all. And lately, that's what I've done. In a similar fashion, I have been playing a fair amount of Donkey Kong Bonanza on the Switch 2. That continues to be a delightful game. It doesn't matter how many times I've heard, "Ooh, banana." I still smile every time I find a banana. And Donkey Kong chomps, swallows it up, and then it says, "Ooh, banana." I mean, it's just great. I love it. I'm down to sub-level 1000 in the world. I think I'm making pretty good progress through the story. The world is great. Every different sub-level has different mechanics to it, different things that you'll have to figure out, different dangers, different variations of similar enemies. And so while it's not really a difficult game, I mean, yeah, I totally am dying. But it's not a terribly difficult game, but there's enough challenge that it's definitely engaging. And at the same time, like I say, it doesn't ever get so hard that it feels punishing. And if I go into one of the little side things, whether it's a battle or it's a like an obstacle course type thing or whatever, if I don't feel like it's clicking for me, I feel little to no hesitation to just say, yeah, no, I'm good, and exit, and then just go on to something else. So good game.
Fair.
Anybody who has a Switch 2, you should have Donkey Kong Bonanza. I mean, I've probably put more time into it than Mario Kart World, even though Mario Kart World would be one of those that, because of its nature, we'll just be able to come back to again and again and again over the years.
Sure.
But DK Bonanza, fun game. Little bit of reading, not as much as I would have liked, but just again, because of things. Been making my way through Wind and Truth. I'm up into I'm over page 1000. So
Nice.
I'm
Congratulations.
in the home stretch. I only have like 24% of the book still to go.
Oh my God. It's too long. Brandon.
And
It's too long.
And I am little by little reading the book Tiny Experiments by Anne-Laure Lecompf. I like it. There's some interesting insights that I am taking away from it that I think it's a good book. I think I'm enjoying it. Final thing I mentioned is a few music releases, 3 music releases in the last few weeks that came out. And then one sort of sad note. So the first is a little 3-song EP from the band Car Bomb. Eden, have you ever listened to Car Bomb?
I can't say that I have.
Car Bomb is what if a little Meshuggah-y, but more math metal to it. So like a little Meshuggah, a little Dillinger Escape Plan. It is chaotic. It is crazy. It's a little relentless. This EP is just 3 songs, classic Car Bomb, 12 minutes of sonic chaos, and it's real good.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, the latest album from the band Abigail Williams was released. It's titled "A Void Within Existence." Abigail Williams, at least, I had heard of them, but it wasn't until their previous release a few years ago that I actually listened to them. I would refer to it as blackened death metal. I really like "A Void Within Existence." It's melodic. There's a kind of a sadness and a darkness to the music that translates really, really well. And I think that this is a very, very strong album, just as the one before it was as well. The newest album from Black Braid 3, came out Friday. I like Black Braid a lot. Black Braid, the first album came out a number of years ago, and it was it came out of nowhere. Sort of it's a whole band, but it was kind of a one-man project. He released a couple singles that kind of really took certain parts of the internet by storm. When the whole album came out, I know some people were a little disappointed, felt like he'd peaked with the singles that were released. But then Black Braid 2 came out, which was really a step up from Black Braid. And then Black Braid 3 came out, which is again a step up from Black Braid 2. It is black metal that is really is rooted in Native American instrumentation, melody, heritage. There's a lot of that in the man behind it. And one of the things that it does that I really like is not in between every main song, but fairly frequently, there will be a short acoustic interlude that acoustic interlude introduces what is going to be the main musical motif for the next song proper. So you'll get this little acoustic piece, and then all of a sudden the next song comes blasting in, and it took a second because the first time you're like, "Whoa, what is that? This sounds just a little familiar." And like, "Oh, that's right, because I just barely heard this melody, but on an acoustic guitar." It's kind of a neat thing that I've never heard anybody else do, and it pulls it off really, really well. The final thing I will mention is, sadly, I believe it was last Saturday. Yeah, it was last Saturday. Profound Lore Records released the news that Eric Wunder, the man behind Cobalt, passed away. He was only 42 years old. There was no mention as to, cause of death or anything, not my business. But since then, I've been listening to more Cobalt, and I went back to check our Desert Island albums, and Cobalt's 2016 release, Slow Forever, came in as it was my third pick. And the more I've been listening to Slow Forever and the couple albums before that, the more I realized, I know I have said many times that Through Silver and Blood is my favorite album of all time. I think that it is Slow Forever, actually.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. I've still not listened to it. I should check it out, I guess.
I couldn't tell you really.
That's very high praise.
It is. And I don't know that I could exactly articulate why. They're both long albums. They're both a little dense, I think, Through Silver and Blood more so. But at the same time, there is just, I don't know. Some of the songs on Slow Forever, there is a world weariness that is sort of tinged with some rage that, it's so primal in its expression. And I've been listening to it a lot over the last week and a half or so since the announcement that he passed away. Again, knowing that we never will get more Cobalt, because again, he wrote all the music and performed all the instruments on all of their albums.
Oh, geez.
And so without him, there cannot be Cobalt.
There is nothing.
There's
no
Cobalt.
band. Yeah.
And so knowing that the 4 albums that we got from them, War Metal, Eater of Birds, Gin, and Slow Forever, is all we're ever going to get. I've really been soaking it up. And I think I did. I came to this realization that no, if you said to me you can only listen to one album for the rest of your life, I do actually think I would pick Slow Forever over Through Silver and Blood. It's a narrow margin, but I think I got to give it the nod. So,
well, I'm going to definitely have to check it out then.
Well, let's get on to this week's topic, and it may be a bit of a short one, and part of that is, again, as we've said before, it's summer. Things are busy. Life is a little crazy now, and I didn't want to give us too much homework. I knew that Eden had some travel, and I knew that things were going to be busy for me, so this was kind of let's just talk about something. I listened to a number of podcasts, and a lot of them tech-related, but a number of them also media related, or at least they're tech people who have very strong media opinions and share those strong opinions. And one of the things that comes up often is the idea of what apps or services these people use to track the media they consume. And so I thought maybe we would talk about whether or not we do track media, how we do it if we do, if it's something that we wish we did more, why, if it's something that we don't really care to do, again, a little bit about that. So I thought, let's start with video games. Eden, do you do any video game tracking?
No, because Backlogged is a pain in the ass. Also, and here's the thing. I play a small enough number of games in any given year. I don't feel like that's that noteworthy. What I would be interested in is to see what games have I played during my whole life. But that would take so long to sit down and think, when I was a kid, did I end up playing Zargon, published by Epic Mega Games? Yes, I did play Zargon. And then finding all of those things and putting all of them onto Backlogged. And then it doesn't feel complete because you're supposed to, in theory, say, when did you play that game? And it's like, the 90s. I played Zargon in the 90s. I played Raptor Call of the Shadows in the 90s.
Oh, hell yeah.
To be fair, I played Raptor Call of the Shadows again a few months ago because I got it on GOG years ago. And I was like, you know what's good? A vertical shooter. I'm going to play Raptor Call of the Shadows again.
It's a great game.
But anyway, I understand the appeal. But because it would be so limited, and also I just don't think that it's that interesting to look at what video games I've played. in the way that it is to look at maybe some of the other stuff we might talk about. What about you?
No, not at all. And I'll be honest, and I will tell you that I don't even see the appeal to tracking what video games I've played. You know what? Steam does a decent job of telling me what games I've played recently. It gives them to me and when did I play them last? And so
that's a fair point.
So I'm like, okay, if there's something that I was playing and I want to get into, I just go to my library page in Steam and bada bing, bada boom, there's a list of what games I played and what day I played them last on. And the games that matter to me, I'm going to remember. I remember my experience the first time playing Planescape Torment, and having some entry in some app is going to do nothing about that for me that I can at least come up with. I remember playing Mass Effect the first time on my Xbox 360 and what that was like. And I don't need to know that it was when I was in residency. I don't need to know, I don't quite understand that. And what I certainly don't need to know, what I don't need is some somewhat arbitrary star rating for games that I've played, because number one, my game library is so deep that I'm not going to come back to a game unless, like Mass Effect, it's something that I'm going to come back to for comfort. And again, I don't need a star rating to make me go, oh, maybe I do want to play Mass Effect again. Or maybe I do want to play Planescape again. I just don't need that. So when it comes to games, I don't see the point to it. And I know that there are websites and I know that there are apps and all these things. And it's just never been something that I have even aspirationally thought about doing.
Yeah.
And I think
out of curiosity, I just pulled up my Steam library and looked at my, sorted by playtime. It's funny to look at it sometimes and be like, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's the game I've had open most? Stellaris with 894 hours? I ain't even opened that in 2 years.
Yeah, but you were a Stellaris sicko for a while.
I was, but last played April 4th, 2023.
Yeah.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, but that game's also been out for a while, so...
How about Plants vs. Zombies, 151.6 hours, last played 2016.
I mean,
that's useful. That's useful information to have. No, it's not.
It's not. That game's a classic.
Anyway, I just, I see the appeal, but I don't feel the compunction.
I think part of it is, at least in some of the people I listen to, is they want to be able to share those numbers with someone. And for me, my game playing is so sporadic that I feel like that would just be extremely boring information. Yes, I've been playing Donkey Kong Bonanza right now because it's fun and I can sit there on the couch and I can play it. And it's one of those where I'm not worried, but I know that my wife will sit in the same room even if she's not interested. She's not going to be like, oh, this is kind of gross or whatever. So...
yeah,
my wife would not enjoy watching me play Cyberpunk 2077 because that game is very tonally different than, say, Donkey Kong. And so
that's true.
I don't know. Like I say, games just never really worked for me. I think it's great if it does for some people, but it's not interest me. So let's talk about books. What about books, Eden?
Yes.
I know you have mentioned in passing your paper notebook.
Yes, I do keep track of the books that I read. And that's mostly I read a lot more than I watch or play, like different things. Cause if I were to quantify the games that I've played this year, it's probably 15, maybe.
Sure.
But I've read 190 or 150 books so far this year. And that's more interesting to me. And so I do just I just note down when I've finished a book. And then out of my own curiosity, I now put little dots next to ones that are prose and don't put dots next to ones that are comics, just so that as I'm looking at it, I'm like, what's my percentage wise? Like just by visuals,
sure.
How much am I reading comics versus prose and vice versa? But again, I more than once I have opened up Storygraph and logged in and said, I'm going to start using Storygraph because I have some friends who use it. And everyone, I had a lot of friends who used Goodreads back in the day. And I think everyone who still, tracks those sorts of things electronically has all moved to Storygraph now because nobody wants to be on Goodreads because it doesn't work as well as it used to. And it's the bald devil's thing now. So everyone goes to Storygraph now. And 3 or 4 times I've been like, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to start marking things. And then I get bored. And so I stop.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. For many years, I used Goodreads back before it was bought by Amazon. Through that and through its ability to integrate with things like Facebook and everything, it was smart in that it could fairly quickly build you that friend connection, that network. And then it was pretty easy because at the time it was so active. It was fairly easy to find people who shared maybe similar interests and follow them and see what recommendations, what were they reading. I found a number of interesting books based off people who read similar things as me and then highly rated a book. And so I really liked that. I as well want to get away from Goodreads because of Amazon now. I read often on my Kindle. I also read on Kobos. I read in paper books. But when I read on the Kindle, does it automatically, when I start a new book, pop up the information page about the book, and the first thing in there is mark as reading on Goodreads? Yes. Do I let it do it? Sure. When I finish a book, does it say mark it as finished? Yes. Do I let it do it? Again, yes. Do I care? No, I do not. I, as well, aspirationally have looked at both Storygraph and one called Hardcover.
I've never heard of Hardcover.
Hardcover, a little bit more of a bootstrapped, smaller thing. I pay for Storygraph Premium and Hardcover, whatever, because I want to try and support them because, again, anything that isn't Amazon, I like, and I would love for it to be successful. But the friction is too much in that I don't have very many people on there. I don't have enough of a network that I feel like I can go there and find reliable recommendations or ideas of what I want to read. I am right now in a point where I know what I want to read. I have a backlog of books that I need to read. I don't need to go and see what either people's reviews of those books were or find other ideas. Maybe if I run out of books to read that I've already bought, then I can start looking for new things to read. But so I'm the same. I want to use Storygraph. I want to use Hardcover. I have tried them both. I like that they are independent from Amazon. I like that they're trying to separate and forge out and be successful. I don't have the time or energy. That's the problem, I think, is by the time I finish, they want me, I mean, not just them, like all of these, they'll do things like, okay, update your progress. And the thought of reading or again, listening to a book and then opening the app, making sure I'm logged in because I don't use it often enough that there is at least a 50% chance I will have been logged out of the app. And then I have to log back in and then go in and say, how much did I read? And it makes it feel like work and no longer enjoyment. And I don't want it to feel like work. Now, I tried to do a roll your own thing at the start of this year. And I have a whole Notion project or whatever they call them that is a book tracker. And so it's a bunch of interconnected databases and I can put stuff in there and it looks really cool. And I started out with this, again, aspirational. Every time I finish reading, I'm going to open up my Notion database and I'm going to add a brief summary of what did I read. So I've got that all in there and I'm remembering it. And no, I don't have, it's too much work.
Here's the thing. Would I ever look at those again? Would I ever actually reference whatever I wrote about what trashy isekai novel I was reading? No.
See, now here's where
so what would be the point?
Here's why I do like the idea. When the Stormlight Archive book 6 comes out, It's going to be in a few years, and I'm going to have to remind myself what happened in book 5. And that honestly
That's
was
why God gave you the Brando Sando wiki.
I know, but have you looked at some of those pages in the Coppermind? Oh
No,
my hell.
I'll never go to a Brando Sando wiki.
Dude, they're so long. These are people who go in, I feel like I'm rereading the damn book when I go to read the page about the book. So this was, again, this was the idea. I was going to roll my own. It didn't work. I haven't opened that Notion database in months and months. Now, one thing I do, and this is when I'm reading nonfiction, I take handwritten notes when I'm reading nonfiction. And then when I have finished the book, I go through those handwritten notes and I will talk out loud using a service called Cleft. It is a kind of an AI meeting summary, note taking, whatever. Basically, I talk to Cleft and go through my notes and sort of talk about what I think about the book. What did I take away from it? What were some of the key points? And then Cleft will take that all and create a nice formatted kind of bulleted note template that then I put in my Obsidian Vault, and I keep my paper notes. So I have those. I do that, but that's literally just for me, because for those kind of books, I do like to come back and I like to flip through and review some of those. So having a concise summary, I find, is useful.
That makes sense.
So finally, what about, I mean, I guess we can say, I don't see there's any real point in music tracking. I mean, we all listen to music streaming anymore anyway.
Do I miss scrobbling? Yes, I do. Do I miss Last FM? Yes, I do.
I mean,
I do.
It's still there. It still works.
I know it is. I know it is. I have one particular friend who I still follow on Blue Sky, who every week posts their top 25 scrobbles and posts a thing of like the 25, albums they listened to that week. This person listens to a hell of a lot of music. And every week I think to myself, oh, an easier time.
Yeah.
And I don't do it.
Well, my problem is this, because I primarily use Apple Music when I'm at work, using it through my phone and stuff.
Sure.
There is no integration. Now there are third-party apps like Marvis Pro and a few others that you can put your Last FM data in, like login information in, and they basically act as front ends for Apple Music. You authorize Apple Music, and then you can listen to it through that app. And for a while, because of that very reason, I was using Marvis Pro. But the issue is that because it is not its own service, this, that, and the other, sometimes the connection gets interrupted and sometimes it doesn't update quite as quickly. And it just makes it where, again, for information that gives me absolutely nothing more than a, oh, gee, that's fancy looking. It's too much. The juice is not worth the squeeze.
Yeah, I agree.
So
the only reason I think fondly on scrobbling is because A, that verb is very funny.
It's a great word.
And B, it was an easier time. It was the era of MySpace. It was the era of using Foobar 2000 for everything. Oh my gosh,
Foobar 2000.
Scrobbling. Do you know I tried to reinstall Foobar 2000 the other day, and I was like, surely there's got to be a way that it can just pull straight from my cloud to Foobar. If there is, I couldn't figure it out. I gave up. I was like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. Because in my heart of hearts, I would love to stop paying for Spotify because I think they're fundamentally an evil corporation. Sure. Part of the problem is we have a family plan. So if I were to try to, cancel mine, it would affect multiple people who aren't me, some of which don't live at my address, but don't tell Spotify that. No, they all live in my address.
Of
Definitely
course they
some
do.
of them don't live in
What
other time zones.
about?
Don't worry about that. Shut up, Spotify. Leave me alone. Sometimes I'll log in and they'll be like, we need you to verify your mailing address. And I'm like, you go fuck yourself. And I just exit that and I don't verify my mailing address. But regardless, I would love to start streaming my own media again.
Sure.
Which I slowly but surely build out a Plex server where I can watch a lot of stuff. And I like to add things to that rather than stream them from another service where I can. But I need to figure out a good way to do that with music. And so I was trying to use Fubar, and Fubar did not work. I
Fubar
did
is all
find a good
Fubar.
phone app.
What's that?
That's just like, it's called Cloud Beats.
Oh, okay.
And it says, oh, what's your OneDrive? And you sign into your OneDrive. And then it says, here's all of your file folders in OneDrive. Would you like to open any of these file folders and do some music? And you're like, I would. And you click on it. And here was the biggest selling point. I was like, okay, the problem with when you're streaming from a cloud service sometimes is the little hiccup between tracks, which some albums that doesn't matter. Some albums, there's a little hiccup between tracks. That's fine because they're discrete tracks. Sometimes you want to listen to an album that's 45 minutes long, 9 tracks, but one song that doesn't stop from start to finish. And Cloud Beats plays those babies straight through, seamless. And I was like, okay, you've sold me. I can access my whole thing with no problems, and it plays them seamlessly. Cool. Do I have an equivalent for that for my PC? No, I do not, because they got rid of Groove Music. Microsoft, you assholes. You had a good program. You killed it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So
that's a tangent, but that's I would love to figure out a better way to stream the files that I already have from OneDrive to my PC, and is a pain. It's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it makes it tricky when you're trying to pull from one of those cloud services, I think. What I do is I put my music that I own on my NAS, my network attached storage device.
Sure.
And I have to go that route because my music library on my NAS is 1.2 terabytes. And
that's a lot of music.
That is far from all of the music that I have purchased on Bandcamp. There's a lot that I have yet to download from Bandcamp. So now part of it is because these are all FLAC files that are on the NAS.
Sure.
And if they offer a high-res version, then I have put that version on, even though it probably doesn't matter. But hey, why not? If they're giving me the option, I will take it. So I have to put it on there. And for that, there's actually a couple really good options. I mean, PlexAmp is really nice. PlexAmp is a really nice app to stream from just the music files in your Plex library. So that works really well. The one I use the most, though, is Rune. Rune is a little ridiculous. It's for audiophiles, people who are a little too far up their own booty hole about their music. But it works really nice in that I install Rune on my NAS. It creates its little database. And then I use the device, or I use the software on anything, and then you can select the output. So it's pretty cool. There are certain devices like my WIM Ultra, my WIM Amp, other
WIM.
WIIM. It's a small little, not small. I mean, it's about the size of an older Mac Mini, but a lot taller. It is an amplifier. It's a high resolution audio player. It hooks into the network. I have it plugged in via Ethernet. And so then it shows up as an audio destination in Rune anywhere as long as I'm on my home network. So I can open up the Rune app on my phone and I can say, navigate my library and then say, I want you to play. And right now I want you to play on the WIM amp that's plugged in downstairs to my Focal speakers and the subwoofer and everything. Or if I'm up in my office, I can say, hey, I want your output this time to be the WIM Ultra, which is hooked up to, again, my receiver and my stereo, my bookshelf speakers and the subwoofer that's up in my office. And you can change different you can put in different outputs. So I can go in and I can go into Rune and I can say, okay, no, actually now I want you to play. It'll recognize and see, oh, I see these Sonos speakers. Do you want me to play to those? Oh, I see these HomePods. Do you want me to play to those? So I can, from my computer, I can output it to any of these different devices in different places, depending on where I'm at. They have a very high quality proprietary sort of software decoding system built in. And then it does a lot of work to pull from the internet and put more information in there. So when I go to an artist page, it'll have a whole biography, and it'll have other works, and
Sure.
it does a nice job of those sorts of things. It's a little pricey. I think it's like $120 a year. They make ridiculous, like $3,000 to $4,000 Rune Nucleus, where it is a dedicated storage and hardware device that you just put your music on. It's like a NAS, but that only does Rune stuff. So that's why I say there is a whole aspect of this that can really, really get up your butt. But I have my library on my NAS. I've put Rune on the Synology, and then I just use the app, whether it's on my computer, my phone, or whatever, to listen depending on which room I'm in on any device that Rune can identify and recognize, which is most of them.
I mean, that's pretty fancy because
Yeah.
I don't have a NAS. I have this hard drive. And that's what my Plex server pulls from, is from this cute little SanDisk hard drive.
Well, so you can set Rune up.
So I could just put all my music on this, but then I would have, it's just a little guy. It's only 1 terabyte and it's mostly full. So I really should, at some point I would like to invest in a NAS. I tried, again, it's one of those things where like, I know there's a solution. I know you can take like a Linux, like a Linux laptop and easily turn that into a NAS, but it's not that easily. It's sort of easily, because I hit enough roadblocks trying to do that with an old laptop that I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
So
well,
I just need to buy a dedicated NAS. That's the solution. I need to spend some money, but I don't want to, because I have a regular person's job and make not that great of money.
I would feel bad.
I work for the state like a sucker. That's the real problem.
Yeah. So we had our nice little, we fleshed out this episode with some unplanned music conversation, which, you know me, I'm always here for it. Let's wrap up with movies and TV shows. What do? You do anything there? What do you do? Do you wish you did? What are your thoughts on tracking movies and TV?
Here's the problem. The problem is this. The people who own the movies and TV and anime tracking sites are all prescriptive assholes.
Okay.
So you can't mark certain things certain places, because, that's a TV show. That's not a movie. This is only for movies. Or you can't put that. That's a movie. This is only for TV shows. And it's like, this is all nonsense. You should just let people mark things if they want to be able to track things.
Sure.
And so the fact that you would need to use multiple services in order to do that, because like the movie one's only for movies, it doesn't have TV on it, and the TV one's only for TV and it doesn't have movies, then I'm not doing it, because you want me to track it on 2 or 3 different places. I can barely keep track of the one. So no, I also don't. Last year, I will a cop to this. Last year in my little planner, I did write down the games and the movies that I would play, so I would remember or movies that I watch and TV shows that I watch, so I'd remember to talk about them here. But this year, because as I've complained in the past, the new version of the planner that I buy had fewer blank pages at the back.
Right.
I was like, well, I'm going to need these for the books. So this year I didn't choose to mark those or write those down in my planner. And I have not done anything past that, because every time I think about it, I'm like, ugh, just like with video games.
Yeah.
I would imagine you feel the same way.
I have zero desire. I don't watch a lot of movies, so I'm not really big into that. I hear people talk about Letterboxd all the time. I have no interest in it. I know that I will occasionally hear or read people who are quoting or referring to hilarious reviews on Letterboxd. That's great. I don't have time to read those. I would rather be reading whatever book or or articles that I'm working on at the time, rather than reading somebody's review of movies that I'm most likely never going to see. There are two that I do kind of use, and it's less for tracking, but they do track. So I'm going to bring them in here. I do occasionally use the app Sequel, only if I hear somebody talk about a movie or a TV show or a book that I think I might want to check out. I will search for it in Sequel. So then it finds it and I get, some cover art, that kind of stuff. And but I'll be honest, I keep forgetting to come back to it. So
So what's Sequel? I'm not familiar with that.
yeah, so it's just a media tracking app where you can track what you've watched or what you want to watch. And I use it only for
Okay.
tracking things that I want to watch or read. So The Incomparable does a lot of, they'll have either movie episodes or they'll have podcasts about books where they read a lot of books. And so if I hear something that sounds interesting, if I remember, I'll throw it in sequel. And then again, if I needed to come back to something, that's where I could look, but I don't remember to very often. The one app that I do use regularly and will kind of sort of track, which is why I want to mention it, it's called Call Sheet. It's made by one of the guys who's on the Accidental Tech podcast. And I like Call Sheet a lot. Call Sheet is what if the IMDb app, but it wasn't dog shit. So
Impossible.
IMDb,
That app's terrible.
right. IMDb is terrible. The site is horrible. Their app is horrible. There's ads everywhere. There's just bullshit in your face the entire time you're trying to use it. Call Sheet actually ties into the movie database instead of IMDb, which the movie database is more open source and has more open access. And what I use it for is you can have a list that I have a list that's just called pinned. And so any TV shows or that I have been watching or that I'm watching, I'll just search for it in there and then I pin it. So I'm rewatching an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I just go and I can tap and see on that season, oh, okay, yeah, that's who's in this, whatever. You can create lists where, again, you could then go in and say, oh, I've watched these or to watch, and you could do all that with it. I don't use that. So that's why I think it applies here. But what I do use it for is, if I want to know, okay, well, who else? I recognize this actor. What else were they in? Then I go to Call Sheet. I grab that. And because it's a front end for the movie database, the app itself looks really nice. There's no garbage in it. It's quick. It's effective. It's fast. So it's actually, in terms of any sort of potentially media tracking apps, it's the one I use regularly, like multiple times a week. I'll pull up Call Sheet because, again, if there's a movie coming out and I'm like, oh, I wonder who's in it, I'll pull it up there. It does some neat things where you can tap a thing that says hide spoilers. So, for example, you go into a TV show, and I'm going to pop it open here on my phone, and I'm going to go to, again, just because I mentioned, I'm going to go to Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And you can see on the main page, it has Andy Samberg, 152 episodes. Melissa Fumero, 152 episodes. Now, what if we get down here and we get to Chelsea Peretti, Gina Linetti's character? Oh, she's only in 118. Why is she only in 118? Well, if I tap the thing that says hide spoilers, it can hide the cast character names, the episode count, episode titles, episode thumbnails, or summaries. So I could go in and I could tap that, and then I wouldn't know, oh, she exits. She's not in 40 episodes for some reason. So it's actually a really well-made app that I do like for that kind of stuff. Again, I use it much less tracking, much more getting information out of about what's going on, and you can see summaries and all this kind of stuff. So that's really the only app of any of these kinds that I use regularly, and I think it's worth it. I think it's a really good app.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would not say I use this one regularly, but the only one of these that I actually kind of use, and again, not for like tracking current things or rating things or anything like that.
Sure.
And the name is the worst. I think I've mentioned it before. The League of Comic Geeks app.
Okay.
Which is the worst name I've ever heard. How dare you call yourselves that for being the best way to keep track of a collection of single issues of comics.
There you go.
And that is what I use it for. It is a way for me to keep track of what do I have in my basement. And most importantly, if there are certain things that I'm looking for, like certain comics that are older that I'm trying to get my hands on, it can be a handy thing to have on my phone. So if we're out of town somewhere, I go to a comic shop, I can be like, oh, you've got some of these issues of this book. Let me see if any of these are the ones that I need.
Yeah.
But I don't keep it updated. It's not, there are folks who, every Wednesday they go to their comic shop and they read their new comics and they put them into League of Comic Geeks. And then they're in there in the comments all talking about, oh man, Absolute Batman is so wild this week. Whoa, let's talk about it. That's not me. That's not me. What I use it for is to let me know I do still need issue 45 of Elf Lord or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
So that if I'm at a place, I can be like, oh shit, that's an issue of Elf Lord I need. And that is about the only one of these that I use. And again, I input my entire collection into it 7 or 8 months ago, and I've opened it once since to put in another stack of things that I had, like a series had finished. So I filed it away from I have like 1 or 2 boxes where I keep the current runs of things that I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they finish, then they go into storage or I get rid of them. And if they went into storage, then I add them to Comic Geeks. But
Okay.
that's it. That's the only one of these I use.
Cool. Well, I think it's interesting because, like I say, I know that in certain corners, the media tracking is a really big, obviously there's multiple apps, just probably dozens, if not hundreds of options available, websites, apps, and things for people to track their media. And as you and I have both talked about in previous episodes, we're kind of collector/completionists.
Yep.
And so I was curious if that spilled over into us wanting to track those tendencies. And I think it's interesting that we are both fairly similar in that I can see to some degree an interest in doing so, but it is, like I said earlier, overall for almost all of these things, the juice is not worth the squeeze.
Well, and I understand too that a lot of people use it, like you said, to get suggestions.
Yeah.
I find it to be far more useful to just talk to people and get suggestions that way.
Yeah.
Either in person or, there are some online communities that I participate in, some Discords I'm in, and places like that. And that can be, I find, a far more effective way to find suggestions of things I might be into, or to see things that I might not expect or might not have heard of before. I just find it a lot more, an easier way to just holistically get ideas of things that I might be interested in engaging with.
Yeah, agree. All right, well, we'll wrap it up here then. We'll be back in another couple weeks. And until that time, please go ahead and subscribe, share, leave a 5-star rating if you think we deserve it. Leave a written rating if you'd like. That does help make it so it's easier for other people to find it. This is available on YouTube where you can subscribe and listen there if you like. Although I guess I'm just old enough school that I think, hey, it's a podcast. Get it in a podcast app and find it on the website where it is hosted, because that's just easier. But, I'm trying not to be old, and so it is up on YouTube as well.
The thing is, the RSS feed is beautiful, and we need to bring it back. RSS supremacy.
RSS
bring it back
forever.
Kids.
Almost every day I open up my RSS reader that pulls from my Feedbin account where I have my RSS feeds subscribed to, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
I love an RSS.
Yep. So we'll be back in another couple of weeks. Thanks everyone for listening. Bye.
Bye.